In this next section, we're going to review the law of cosines. So the law of cosines is going to be used whenever we've got pieces of information for each angle or side, or each pair of values here. So I'm thinking of pairing up the vertex with, or the angle with, the opposite side. So we have capital A and lowercase a, capital B and lowercase b, capital C and lowercase c. So what we're looking at is, what if we don't have all the information that we had for sines, where we had everything for a pairing? What if we only have one piece here for this pairing, one piece here for this pairing, and one piece here for this pairing? That's when we're going to use the law of cosines. So the way the law of cosines is done is, if you're looking for the side length, or if you've got a side length, then you're going to be using these formulas here. They're basically the exact same formula. You could call this A, you could call this A. Just know that what you're going to be doing here is, if you're looking for, say, this side length, then it's going to be this side length squared equals b squared plus c squared. So the sum of the squares of the other two side lengths minus double the product of the other two side lengths times the cosine of the angle that's across from the side that you're looking for. Again, probably a lot easier to understand once we do an example of it. So in this case, we're given the vertex, or the angle B, is 44 degrees. Then we're given side C is 10. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in as C equals 10. And side A is equal to 22. So now we're looking for side B. So what we're going to do is go back over here. B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC times the cosine of B. And we're going to plug all of that information in. So we're looking at B squared equals A squared. So A squared is 22 squared. Then plus C squared. So plus 10 squared. Then we're looking at minus 2 times A, 22, times C, 10, times the cosine of B, which is 44. So once I'm to this point here where I've got everything written out, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to think at the very end of this, I would take the square root of whatever this answer is. So instead of saying b squared is equal to all of this, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go ahead and say b is equal to the square root of all of that. Now what I can do is, I can enter that into the calculator here. So I'm going to go second, and then my square function, which is going to be the square root, then 22 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 22 times 10 times the cosine of 44. And then when I hit that, it's going to give me 16.355. So I know that my solution, B, is going to be approximately 16.4 units long. In problem number 2, we're going to be looking for an angle measure this time, and we're going to use the law of cosines to find that angle measure. So we're looking for angle V, which means it's across from side V. So what we're going to say is, side V is going to be 4.4 squared equals 6.7 squared plus 7.1 squared minus 2 times 6.7 times 7.1 cosine of V. All right, so now what you want to do is go ahead and take your calculator and work this down, and we're going to simplify this as much as we possibly can. So we're going to go 4.4 squared, and that is going to give us 19.36. Then 6.7 squared is 44.89. 7.1 squared is 50.41. Then minus 2 times 6.7 times 7.1, and that is going to be 95.14. And that is being multiplied against the cosine of V. So this right here, we can't do anything with that until later on in the problem. But what we can do is, we can take this, we can take the sum of this, and then we can subtract that over to the other side. So if we've got 44.89 plus 50.41, we end up with 95.3. So 95.3 minus 95.14 cosine of V, and that is going to be equal to 19.36. So now what we need to do is go ahead and subtract that over. So 19.36 minus 95.3 is negative 75.94. That is now going to be equal to negative 95.14 cosine of V. Since this is multiplication, we're going to remove this through division. So the new problem, since it's going to be a negative divided by a negative, it's going to be 75.94 over 95.14, and that's going to be equal now to the inverse cosine of V. Because in order to be able to find that angle, we're going to have to do the inverse cosine. So when we punch that in, the inverse cosine, 75.94 divided by 95.14 is going to give us 37.04. So that's going to be an approximation of 37.0 degrees. So we know that V is approximately 37 degrees.